All right, so my next step here is to figure out how to install legs that are angled out like this. There's going to be 3 legs, one like that, out, one like that, out, one like that, out. So I have to drill, my angle here is 10 degrees off of the vertical. So how do I drill that accurately? And I came up with this thing, this jig. These are just scrap pieces of plywood. There is 10 degrees off of the vertical, cut with a miter saw. This thing I'm going to clamp right there. Use that angle cut on the plywood as a guide for this bit. I did it on a test piece of plywood. It seemed to work okay. And so this same jig works here. On this leg, you flip it 180. I can do the same thing over there. This orientation doesn't work on this piece of wood for the leg going this way. So I simply turned it 90 degrees, cut a big slot across that piece of 1x2 or 2x3, whatever that thing is. And same deal. And then in that hole, I'm gonna insert these threaded inserts, into which goes a hanger bolt that screws in. And this large threaded end is going to go on one end of each of the table legs. The original way I wanted to drill those holes was to 3D print a jig to clamp onto these 2x3s that has 2 holes, one of which is angled at 10 degrees this way, good for this hole over here, and this hole over here. Sorry, flip it 180 and use that hole. And then this other hole angled at 10 degrees this way. So I printed this and then proceeded to run out of filament. Stupid. So once I get more filament, I think I might use this method on the 3rd hole just to see which one works better. But until then, I've got the old-fashioned way. We'll put a little paste wax on the threads for some lubrication as we're driving it. What can be annoying about these threaded inserts is, I think typically you're supposed to drive them in with a screwdriver, but that's a pretty large screwdriver. So what I'm having to do is kind of fudge it with the tools that I have, one of which is a pretty stiff scraper that will allow me to get it started, and then I use a chisel the wrong way. Let's do this. This is the chisel. Using the long length. Try to encourage it to go down that 10-degree path that I made for it instead of down its own path. That's not 10 degrees. I think that's going where I want it to go. Paste wax is also helping. Okay. Hanger bolt. Slightly off center. And we'll do it for the other 2 holes. This jig works too well to even try to screw with the 3D printed version, so I'm just going to roll with it. It's perfect. I wanted to test out two different methods of running off the bottoms of these table legs. And the first one I tried is marking out about an inch up from the bottom and a slightly smaller circle than this full diameter of the table leg, and kind of just chiseling my way down to the lines that I marked. And this was the rough end result. A little rough. And then I was planning on sanding it. Alternatively, just taking this end to the sander and going to town on it, I think worked just as well, if not better. So I think that's what I'm going to do for rounding off the table legs.